Hey everyone, welcome to Doug's Guitar of the Day, episode 10. We finally made it to double digits and we're finally on the last acoustic one of the bunch. So I'm kind of relieved on that because this acoustic guitar thing kind of wears me out. What we have today, pretty long story. This is actually the oldest guitar that I can remember having, that I still have, and that still works to this day. Um, it's a Gretsch, 1947. Headstock says Gretsch Synchromatic. That's still intact so far. I'm hoping it doesn't fall out. This guitar has been through heck. But basically, my grandpa, Herschel Kaufman, bought this new in 1947, and my dad always told me he could remember him bringing it back in the case from the music store or whatever across the field or whatever. My dad must have been about 5 or 6 at the time. But for whatever reason, I remember in 4th grade is about when this thing started beating around our house instead of my grandpa's. Now, he had a Gibson Hummingbird too, so maybe my dad wanted to learn to play. I don't know. Maybe he thought I would learn to play. Now, in 4th grade, my grade school teacher at the time was giving guitar lessons after school. She had played the ukulele or whatever and thought she could give guitar lessons. So might be why this ended up at our house. But it's a jumbo, just like the last one I showed you that my parents got me. Really big body. And the only way that I could play it in 4th grade was to lay it down flat. It was so big. And that wasn't working for me. My dad had brought home an electric guitar from Goldblatt's department store where he worked at the time in the appliance section. But the teacher wouldn't allow electric guitar and an amp for these lessons. So I didn't take any. I kind of wonder how many people out of that 4th grade class still played. It wasn't until a couple of years later, about in 6th grade, that I started taking lessons from Sonder Woolley at Mrs. Bear's School of Music there off Pershing Road in French Quarter West. Anyway, back to the guitar. This guitar is a model 125F. Now, my grandpa always said it was a 125. I thought he was confused because Gibson had a model 125. And every time I'd seen these in books, there was a G brand on top, and they always called this the Rancher. But this predates that. This is 1947. I did some research, and it is a model 125. Originally, this guitar was Sunburst. Now, around the time after I started taking lessons, around 6th grade or so, my grandpa took this from our house and he had it refinished. And it really didn't need refinished, I don't think. It was tobacco sunburst and it had your average wear and tear. But the refinish job really, whoever painted it didn't do that good of a job. You could actually scratch the finish off in places with your fingernail. I kind of dealt with that for a while and kept on trying to play it. But eventually, in the 80s, I decided I would have it refinished again, and I would have it refinished natural. So I did, and it's a decent job, and it turned out pretty good. Still got some nice wood on the back. If you look really close, you can see where it's darker around the perimeter, kind of telling you that it was originally sunburst. The back is arched. But what happened, the guy who refinished it for me didn't realize the top was ply. And he sanded through on this upper bout. It's hard to see. The grain should be going this way, but right here you can see it goes the other way. So that was the only thing that went wrong with the refinish. Now this big piano-like bridge bass was kind of coming unglued, pulling the top up with it. So did some brace work on the inside, glued that back down. Kept on playing it. Now on the second refinish, on the first refinish, my grandpa had put some gold-plated Grovers or some pearl-like buttons on them, which were really cool looking. But I decided to take them off and put them on my SG. So the tuning keys that are on it are from like a 74 or 75 SG, and they work fine. Also during the refinish, I don't know if you can see, but the headstock, the wings of the headstock, which are different pieces of wood, were starting to split, probably due to the bigger tuning keys. So there's two dowel pins here to kind of hold the headstock together. But the main problem with this guitar is it was always just a bear to keep in tune. The intonation was real sharp on it. And what it had is it had a adjustable rosewood bridge on two thumb wheels. But I guess over the years it had moved forward or was leaning forward. Never could get it to intonate. So I took an aftermarket ABR type bridge, and flipped all the saddles around to where I could get them to go back that way towards the tailpiece. And it didn't fit on the studs that were there, so we had to drill 2 extra holes that you may be able to see on the inside to get it to fit over there. Anyway, that worked. It started intonating, and then the D chord started sounding better. Another thing I did, the strings used to anchor on this piano-shaped piece of rosewood. There was a metal plate that went from here to here, and that's where the strings went. And I thought maybe that was contributing to the top, to the bridge pulling up. So I put a trapeze tailpiece on it, which doesn't really look that great, but I think it makes it more stable. This thing's pretty fragile. It's got a lot of issues with the binding, which is something common to a guitar that's old, and especially common to Gretsch. You got binding here that's coming off. You got binding here that's loose. You have binding around the triangular sound hole that's loose. I really need to have someone give it the once over one more time, but it's still got a song in it. It's still playing, and that's not too bad considering this beat around for years. I had a lot of my friends, I'd let them borrow this for weeks at a time. I was playing electric, I was playing in a band, I'm like, here, take this Gretsch and have at it. So luckily nothing ever happened to it, but it's starting to show some wear and tear. I had left it in the case at my mom and dad's, and they're in one of their bedrooms when I moved down to Memphis, because I didn't want to take it with me, and there was a moisture issue at that time in this particular bedroom, so this thing kind of got moldy. I still have the original case, but I bought a new case for it. But it's still got a nice warm sound. It's a big sound, but it's not a loud sound. When I'd play with the other acoustic guitar players, to me it seemed like this thing was getting buried a little bit. So it really wasn't the ultimate guitar for a jam session, but just to sit home and play. I mean, it was pretty good. And it's got the biggest neck on it in the world. I mean, it's wide and it's thick. I didn't really realize that until a few years ago. Someone else pointed it out. Man, that's the biggest neck I ever felt. And it became kind of natural to me, and then I thought, wow, that is big. I mean, it's as big as any 50s, type Gibson neck that I played. It does have I don't know if you can see it or not, kind of a stripe down the middle of it. It's not actually the middle. It's kind of on one, a little bit towards the treble side. I don't know what kind of wood that is. I don't know if it's a piece of rosewood sandwiched in between or not. But the other thing I did was put a strap button right here. Other thing not original is this veneer on the back of the headstock, but it looks pretty good. So it's still playing. I haven't got it out in a few years, and I just got it out and kind of cleaned it up a little bit and got some of those moldy spots off of it, and I actually found a set of acoustic strings, which I didn't think I would find. Set it up, tuned it up, and it seems to be doing pretty good. I've got it tuned down a half step to E flat, just because I don't know how much more tension this thing's going to take. I probably ought to tune it down to D or C sharp or something, but kind of stuff I used to play for my grandpa, like Wildwood Flower. There's a lot of sympathetic vibration going here and there. I think some of it's because the adjustment screws from the bridge might be touching the strings. This pickguard's actually screwed to the body. Some of these might be loose. It's better to play it lightly. If you start really hitting it hard, then you can hear those buzzes coming. The frets are really low. They've been filed and recrowned a lot of times. I doubt that they're even, 30 thousandths tall, if that. That makes your fingers touch a lot of wood when you're fretting, and actually you think that would be, you could play a little bit faster that way, but it's not comfortable when your fingers hit too much wood. It's almost a little bit, the action's low, but it's almost painful to play, so it's going to need a refret if I decide to keep it. Well, I'm going to keep it, but it's either make it playable or get a glass display case made for it. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do about that yet. But I'm just really tickled to death that the sound is good. That's all for today. We'll be back in electrics with electric guitars in no time at all. So, really special guitar here. One more look at it. Now, I think what I might do, I couldn't figure out how to do with this phone. I couldn't figure out how to reverse it so I could actually take pictures of the guitar and then flip it back around to where you could see me. But I'm going to take some pictures of all the weirdness going on, like where the sand through was, and where I'd replace the bridge, and where the binding's falling off, and stuff like that. And I'll add them, maybe to the Facebook post later. Until then, we'll be back with an electric guitar before you know it. See y'all later. Bye.